washed out green. This whole thing is grass. There's the edge of the house. But we're just going to go through and real quickly. Now, if you'll notice a couple things I'm doing is I'm trying to feather it out. And when I say feather it, I don't want to hard it. I don't have a property line on this. So this one I do kind of want to just bleed the color out. And just kind of make it disappear. This is where that broken line technique really works well. Now you can get an idea, look at the area that I just filled with color and how long did it take. Hence the reason why we love markers. And you know, you don't have to be super accurate, get close. And we're gonna go through and we're gonna trace all the dark ink lines on top of this. So there are ways around that with Photoshop, but we're not gonna get into that yet. And I have tried your way with coloring on the back, and I'm going to put a layer.
That's what Suzanne taught me to do.
I've never had it come out as nicely as I'd like. I used to do Prismacolor pencils on the back of Mylar and do the ink work on the front, which was okay. You could have a lot of fun with that too, but
it sounds nicely textured. Did it come out looking good?
It was all right. It was early on. I've been happier with. I'm filling all the trees. They're ultimately going to be green.
Absolutely the same color as the grass. You're not going to make.
This is just layer one.
Oh, layer one.
We're going to be layering the living daylights out of this.
Okay.
So I do my big areas first. So I do one big wash over the light green, and I'll be coming back at it in a minute. So next, what else have we got a lot of? Well, I see a lot of pool. Is this one of those brush ones? Oh, look at that. Oh no. What? Oh no, it's just a fine tip. It's not a brush. Oh, there we go. This is a Winsor Newton. Huh. I don't remember buying this. All right, so.
You probably took it off somebody.
You know, it'll make up for the ones that have been stolen from me. Oh yeah, by the way, thank you for reminding me. I did mention this earlier. Put your initials on your markers. They get flying around a lot here. They're how much a piece? $5, $4, $5? Yeah, just put your. Yeah. How much?
$6.99. I think.
$7 a marker.
Yeah,
That's painful.
Michael's.
It's. Do you have a coupon? Got to use coupon at Michael's.
Oh yeah, Michael's. Just Google coupon. You
Yeah.
get 50% off of almost everything you get in there.
Yeah, you can get 50% off one item, or at least 40% off pretty much all the time. All right, I laid down a light blue.
Just go buy one at a time.
Okay, it's well, sometimes they'll also have 50% off art supplies. I'm just going to take a little of this beigey and just start to hint at some. How dark is that? It's not beigey. It's tanny. It'll work. All right, I'm just going to put a little bit in. Oh, missed a little grass.
40% off.
And you'll notice.
Floral and greenery.
And I'm going to suggest that you do. Oh, that was not grass. That's grass. Okay, so notice how I'm checking the markers over here before I put them on here, because I don't know what they're going to look like. So when you're doing one, have a scrap of paper available to color on, or do it up in the corner here and see and say, yeah, all right, that'll work, before you commit to doing it here and finding out that it's 4 times as dark as you want it to be. I'm just going to put a little bit, just a couple splash of this brown, kind of a tan on some of the concrete. And just in the corners. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill in these, whatever they are, planters with no plants. I'll make those darker. I'm going to fill in the mulch beds.
So why with the pool, since you were going, and this was probably just the answer is probably just for texture, but with the pool you were going to fill the whole thing in, why didn't you just go all the way across the whole time? I mean, you didn't do really the same kind of stippling as with the grass.
I kind of did. It doesn't show up much. It's such a light blue that I was just going fast.
Okay.
It's when you get into little areas, sometimes it's tough. You're just using the.
How do you know those are concrete planters? Because they have borders all the way around, or
Sure.
He doesn't
you
know.
just
He
made
made
that
it
up?
I'm just, it's.
Pick it up as you
yeah.
go.
All right, so
You go
those
to
are the
Hot
main
Tops.
colors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a second layer of my green. All right, and I'm going to aim for the corners in the grass, and I'm going to go over all the trees. So let's just go over to the corners.
It's the same
The
green.
same green.
Same green. All I'm trying to do is just make it pop at the corners. Again, it's just trying to be sort of watercolory. What you're trying to do, very few things in life, I mean, if you look at this wall, which is a white wall, or that board, even that green board, which is a pretty flat green board, but if you look, some places there's light reflecting off it, you know, other places there isn't. You know, it's not just one totally flat green color. And the problem that most people have when they go to color stuff is they just lay down a flat wash and they don't like the way it looks. It just doesn't look super natural. Because there's, like I said, reflected light and just variations in it. And you start to see how that sort of comes out a little bit. But then we're going to go over all the trees. I'm going to put a second coat
Like full width.
right over the whole thing. Now, with tracing paper, this is nowheres near as vivid as on bond.
Why are we doing this directly on that?
Why are we doing it on the paper?
Yeah.
That will be your second exercise. So we will be doing this twice tonight. Down and to the right. So just go through, start at the right hand side. We're making little puff balls. And just kind of,
It's a terrible green.
don't worry, relax, Ivy. It's going to be okay. Honest, I promise.
it's just for learning purposes?
Wait, is
It's
this
a-
for the light or the darks? This for the darks?
This is going to be darker because the shadows, the tree's going to get darker down and to the right.
Okay.
Because the shadows will go on there in a minute. Well, in a couple minutes. So I do about 2/3 of the trees with this slightly darker green. You can see I kind of go, like I said, about 2/3 of it. It's not an exact science. Just get close. A little bigger than half. All right. Oh, that's nice.
That's brown.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to aim in the corners of these planters and just put a little there.
Those are dressing rooms.
Now I've got,
Outdoor dressing room.
I think it's part of the paving.
I'm going to do
You
a
don't want to get
little
wet when you get dressed for the pool. You know?
in the mulch. Just little stipples just to kind of hint at something.
The power of suggestion with markers.
You'll see. Hopefully it'll work.
We were
Color
talking
coded
about
stipples.
watercolors the last time I was here, and I showed you those drawings. And I asked Mike how he does them, and he hand draws them, and then he scans them onto watercolor paper, and then he paints them.
And it works out okay.
Works out. Apparently, they're
Yep,
beautiful.
It's,
It's working for him.
Yep, it just depends on what kind of ink your printer has.
Yeah, apparently, he has it
There's a
loaded up.
French gray. I'm gonna just throw a little of this. This I actually would have liked for the pavement, but I'm not gonna. I'll just put it on this for now.
What
What's
is
that over there?
This is a deck,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
and I don't really care. I just want to show a difference with the pavement. Okay, now let's do a second layer of blue in the corners. I'm just going to kind of make no difference at all. So we're not even going to bother.
Yeah, wait, what? What did you just say?
yeah. it's
I'll
too
show
light.
you. I'm gonna grab a darker blue, and this blue's pretty intense. So watch what I'm gonna do. And this is where tracing paper is kind of fun. I can just put a little in the corners. You won't be able to get away with this quite as easily with bond.
What, the
Get
color
it.
of that blue, or doing it?
Oh yeah.
I see. You're pulling it out.
Yep. Speaking of watercolors.
And what color are you using right now? Just the same blue you
Nope,
had?
this is a dark, yes, the color I'm using now, it was the
the
original.
original.
And I'm just softening the darker blue dots. Remember this when it's time to do skies.
Wait, you use the lighter blue first.
Yep. Then I
And
put the
then-
dark in the corners, just a
Uh-huh.
little bit in
Oh,
the
and then you
corners,
took
and
the
then I
light
took
one
the
back
light
and
one.
stretched it out, okay.
And then you wind up with a little bit of ink on the tip of the light one, so you can put dots around, and they'll show up in the water, and that's probably going to be pretty good for the water right there. We don't have to do a whole lot more. Okay, so I'm going to do
I just don't care.
So you go for sort of shadowing again?
this one. I'm doing kind of half of what I did before. See how before I did 2/3? Well, now I'm going to just do half of what I did. Half of the half again. Yep. Don't be afraid to put those stipples in there. You're trying to get rid of.
So you almost need at least 3 of every color marker to be able to do things like
Nah,
that?
you
Or
know,
you can, I guess, just keep going over it with
and
the same one.
I will tell you that with the bond, 2 greens will probably do it for you. You know, a light and a dark. And because with the tracing paper, it's just tougher because you need this bold color. On the bond, that second green that I used would stand out a lot more. And just doing the 2 layers would stand out a lot more. All right, so now I've got those in there. Now I'm going to take the first green, the second green that I used, and just kind of muck up the line between the 2. Again, you're just trying to stipple it in and just make them blend a little, that's all.
So what is in there in the markers now, like alcohol or something?
Alcohol.
The Prismacolors are alcohol. Some of the other brands have solvents in them. Oh, I got to give my lecture to the ladies, and I had this be a problem, not a problem. So now what I'm going to do is I have to go over all of the black lines, and I'm not going to go over all the black lines, but I'm going to kind of focus on this area so you can kind of see what happens when I do this. So let's do. First of all, I am definitely going to have to get some new thin Sharpies. So what that tells you is keep an eye on your thin Sharpie or the instructor will steal them.
Oh boy. That's right, you can steal a line. It sucks.
My thin Sharpies keep disappearing anyway.
Your pens do?
Yeah.
I only
Not
have
picture,
one, I
just-
promise you.
My tiny
At
dog.
home?
Why have that black
Kids
one?
probably.
sucks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
My
find
dog
little black-
really likes the plastic that the Sharpies and the Le Pens.
Yep.
That soft plastic, that's like his favorite thing.
I'll find 'em.
What kind of a dog?
He's half poodle and half Havanese. He's a
I don't even know what a Habanese is.
you know what a Bichon Frise is? Those little white fluffy dogs?
Yep.
It's like that, only not white. Very much the same kind of dog. It's a little fluffy dog.
Awesome.
He's really fun.
How old is he?
He's 5.
Nice.
I was always a big dog person, and I got this tiny dog from my mother-in-law when she lived with us before she died because she needed a companion dog. And he was an awesome companion dog for her, and now he's mine.
There you go.
Do you keep going over your lines, or am I not seeing that right?
Yeah, I'm completely drawing over every black
I mean,
line that's
like-
on here.
You would draw a black line and then go over the same black line. Did you do that, or am I?
No, I really don't tend to unless the marker wasn't working.
So you're going crazy.
A lot of times I'm doing a double line, and I missed a line there. Not that that's never happened before. Like that one. But what you can start to see, I didn't do this line.
When
all
you
the
go
way.
to the end of a line, are you going back in just a hair? I thought I just saw you do it.
I
Because sometimes
might
I'm
have.
ending up with
I
like
don't even-
dots at the end or little hooks that I don't want there.
Well, you don't want the hooks. Dots are cool.
Right.
Dots.
But when
we-
I'm trying
we
to end
start-
a solid line, I'm finding it's not ending perfectly. I'm getting a little extra something there. So I was wondering if there was a trick as to pulling up your pen, and I thought I just saw you draw a line and then go back in real quick before you lifted the pen from the paper.
I might have. We have it on film. I would take
Yeah,
a
you
look.
do
I
every
would take a
do it
look
every
next
time.
week. Do I do it every time?
Yeah.
Really? I haven't.
Well,
am
you
I
just
doing it?
didn't right then because I.
Now I'm thinking
And
about
now
it.
you're
And I'm
thinking
not
about it, but
doing
I watched you
Yeah,
like
you're
5
lying.
times. Yeah, you go to the
That's
end
right,
and then
that's
just
right.
back in just a hair right over what you had done.
Well, that gives me a little hit go hit. I guess. I don't know. I
Okay.
didn't know I was doing it. So I learned something about myself. Love those little dots though.
Wow, you missed the pool.
So what's yeah.
It's,
Oh, is that?
it's the deeper part. There's a diagonal line that you can't see that makes that be the deeper part.
I like pools.
And it's got a diving board, which nobody has anymore, but I love diving boards.
Really?
Oh,
People don't have them anymore?
No, you can't get them past
Liability.
code anymore.
It's-
Liability,
it's-
yeah.
Really?
They're
Really?
really
Oh,
tough.
you can get them in your house. Maybe insurance is hard.
They pulled them out of every public pool everywhere.
Don't take me
Really?
there. Bedford
Slides
had
too?
when I
No
first
more slides?
slides are fine.
My gym has a
Um,
diving board on its pool.
Really?
Where's that?
Because it's
At the
private.
CCBA in Enfield.
In Northfield has diving boards.
Enfield.
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 Yeah.
Well, that's good to know because I have to take my kids to Dover to go to the Jenny Thompson pool because they've got a 1 meter and a 3 meter board. And
diving board.
Bedford used to have a 3 meter board and a 1 meter board. It was beautiful, a beautiful diving well, and they pulled it because there's a standard for diving that states that a diving well's got to be 14 feet deep.
No one has a 14.
No one had a 14. Everybody was 12 or 10, and I dove a lot.
Out of your way with diving.
And I used to dive at a pool in Bozeman, Montana that had an 8-foot deep end with a 1 meter board. And
That seems a little
Surface dive.
That seems a little sketchy.
it,
I have
it
to-
was. I banged into the bottom hard.
I bet.
My first time, not my second. But I dealt with the president of the Y a lot, and what he had said is, and he said, I've been directors of Ys all over the place. Worked at Ys for the better part of 40 years. He said, I've seen people get creamed on the diving board, hurt really bad. He said, but I've never seen anybody get hurt from hitting the bottom of the pool too fast. So he thought it was kind of a BS requirement, but they weren't going to pay the insurance. So, all right, now I'm going to go through. I'm going to do my trees, same way as before. And I want you to kind of see what happens with these. I'm just doing the perimeter. I'm not going in and doing each tree all the way around. All I'm doing now, by the way, is the same thing you've been doing for the past several weeks. What you did the other day with your site plan. So once I get done with the trees, what should I do next? Any thoughts?
Shadows.
I want to do something before shadows.
Branches.
Texture?
I want to do some of these lines around the mulch beds,
Yeah, the
and I got to do the fence too, which is going to be an issue because fences are always tricky. Yeah, I got a fence around it.
Otherwise, it's an attractive nuisance.
I'm not going to do those trees. I'm going to focus on this area and here. So we got to do the fence.
From like walking in at night, right?
And here's one time. You know what?
You get a
I
fence.
lied. I'm not going to.
Someone should be.
It should be straight, right?
Across
It's
the
a
end of
fence.
the pool there.
Well, you're going to find that unless you have an above ground pool, most towns are going to require that you have a fence.
Well,
I think every town, right?
Well,
Yeah,
if
I've never seen a town that
Standard
doesn't.
legal.
I've never
Fence
seen
around
that.
your pool.
Is that required if it's lit at night?
I believe so.
I believe so.
They're just
Although
trying to
I
keep
will
kids from
tell
walking.
you
in
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say
that
babies can walk in
Shots
the
of poor
dark or
raccoon.
light.
depending on what your
So are you just
jurisdiction
making that in there, or
jurisdiction
was it
is,
there?
you may not
It was
have to.
there.
If you're
What
out
do
in
you mean,
the,
like
You
zoning?
can kind of see it right there.
Oh, okay.
not in New England, because in New England, every scrap of land belongs to a town.
And you're gonna double
But
line
in
it.
jurisdictions where you
Yeah,
have
the fence,
county,
and it was drawn. I'm
often the
tracing
county
what was
land has
underneath
Oh,
it, to be
okay.
honest
and
with you.
there
It's,
you can have a pool that doesn't have a fence.
if you're a certain
depends on
distance from the
where you are.
property line,
Yeah.
yeah.
Double line.
How far?
I don't know how far, I just know that it is a true fact, because I've seen new ones built, yeah. But you have to be out in the county, as they
Okay,
say.
now, let's just do those real quick. I would actually probably even
mean where the
consider
land is,
using my
like-
template on this one, but
Owned by
With the little
the
circle?
US, but not by the
yeah, but
state?
you know
Is that
what?
it is?
I
Owned
like
by
that.
the
there and
state,
not on a
but
window
not
on a
by
house?
township.
That's why I'm doing them
Oh,
freehand
that's
here.
Okay.
The small ones
That's an
you can
interesting
almost get
question.
away with
Oh, okay.
using the circle template,
Okay.
because if you're a little off, no one really notices. The big ones, boy, if you're a little off, it stands out like a sore
Yeah.
thumb. All right, now I'm going to do my woogly lines around softer features.
Woogly.
You know, I've got this,
Like the mulch line.
the mulch line, and that's going to be a single line. I don't know if I have a good example of hard meeting soft. Yes, I do. Right there, I've got hard meeting soft. So I'm double lining it. Do I want to go around the fence? No.
I like how they continue that mulch bed through the fence. It's got a
So-
nice touch.
Now I'm going to go through, put my dots in my trees, and start putting in a few branches.
Wait, oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
See, like right there where
Yeah.
you're at.
That also makes it a pain in the butt for that little patch of
You
grass
have
that
to
you
mow
have
that.
to mow
Sucks.
that.
That's called weed whacking.
That's
Yeah, and then
called,
you make a mess everywhere. There's
Nah.
also two planters
Nah.
right there too.
That's good.
Yeah, this is not designed for easy maintenance.
you'll get ivy worked up.
So
I
if
know.
you were
Maybe it's aspen.
actually
there
designing
you go.
this pool,
Yes.
how many times would you draw this? You would draw it and then touch it up a little bit, and then to get color on it, you'd have to do this and draw in the lines afterwards, right?
No.
Well, with
I
the,
used to.
with the exception of the computer.
With the exception of the computer, absolutely. And that's exactly what I used to do, which is what I'm doing right now. Which is go through and trace every line. I might not even put a shadow on the fence. But watch what happens to the trees when I put this shadow on there.
Now, would you use a Sharpie or would you use a like gray marker for a shadow?
Sharpie, black all the way. Some people will use, I like, just look at how they lift it off. And, you know, some people will use, let's look at that. There's nothing there. I haven't done anything to it as far as lines. But if I just go, all of a sudden those come right off the page.
You're not
Planters.
doing the mulch perimeter and the other trees on purpose, or are you just not doing it?
I'm
tonight?
just not doing it because I don't want to spend
Take the time.
45
Okay,
minutes
got
just
it.
tracing
All right, but
everything.
normally you
Normally, yes, I would do that.
Okay.
When you guys do your exercise, notice what I'm doing now is I'm just going in the corners, just
Mm-hmm. Same color,
laying
right?
down, same color, just trying to get a little bit more character in there. Because I like to not see one flat color. And I would put a little yellow flash on the light side of the trees. Doesn't take much. See how those come off? Look, compare those to these. It's just a little yellow flash. You can do it with your pencil. I don't use the pencil because I've got the sticks. And you'll notice the stick that looks the thinnest is the yellow. And that's from the yellow flash. And I would just go like that, and like that. There,
You should have to
there.
sharpen one side of the pencil.
It's that's just worn out from doing what I'm doing right now.
You can't do that with marker. You prefer the
Nope, you won't. It won't. Okay. I
You
just
should be
like
the
to
one coming up
throw.
with the names, Bill.
Yeah, right?
Well, that's
Mr.
not
G.
what
These-
Is
we're
that just for
doing.
texture? or-
These are little apples.
Oh,
That's what my
That
students say. They're just red dots
They're all apple trees?
No.
around this thing, and we'll keep the pool within their property. Just barely.
There's a 5-foot setback there that you just violated.
Not in this town, there isn't.
Just setback.
Watch what happened when I.
So you're not going to do that in black ink at all?
Oh, using
Nope.
the red to make it pop.
I'm just using the red. Now, a lot of times, you can. Yeah, I wouldn't do the. I wouldn't trace over the black necessarily. I mean, like I said, I do mine on the
Not on a
computer, so
color.
I would have the black.
I tried one of my reds and it was just like bam. I was like, no.
Was that the color of your sweatshirt? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Yeah.
don't have this assortment of colors to
Okay. 2 times I'll use this point.
peach.
Okay, let's just lay a lighter red. This is like a terracotta. And I would probably fill most of it in. Okay, then take your brick red and just put a couple dots at the bottom. And I always like doing this because it was cheap and easy, and it looked kind of cool. And then if you want to dabble that up a little bit, you can just start to do the same thing that we did there, which is just kind of feather it with that. And we would have found our Sharpie. I'm not going to trace all the letters.
Trace any of them with that Sharpie.
Now instead of using the Sharpie for the lines, could you use a marker, one of those fine tip markers?
My guess is the fine tip. You mean the colored markers?
Yeah.
My guess is the fine. It depends. Is it a reed tip or is it a felt tip? And I'll show you the difference in a minute. All right. This down sometimes the point goes away. All right. So you can kind of see what it looks like there. And I mean, I could put a little texture in the grass, or we could. Well, sorry,
Yeah, hard to keep that stuff.
I almost forgot.
I have to take all this time.
2 weeks. Oh no,
Kid,
fake grass.
My parents are coming.
Cheap grass.
Oh, cheap grass.
Make that company time.
Cheap fake grass.
You tell Tom that.
Either that or the Techo show.
And you can start to use some of the same
Are you
techniques
going to the NHL?
that we used on the other one,
Probably not.
and that gives it a little more character there too. Do what I just did, and I will stop recording.
Camera.